The way a crow shook down on me, the dust of snow from a hemlock tree, has given my heart a change of mood and saved part of a day that I had rued. I have always liked that short Robert Frost poem. I like poetry. I have some favorite poems and some favorite poets. I like Robert Frost and the way he uses nature as metaphor. I like Mary Oliver. Langston Hughes and Emily Dickinson wrote lots of good stuff. But I'm not a poet myself, and I've never received any formal training or education in poetry. Now, when I was a kid, I remember reading poems. I remember that poem by Robert Louis Stevenson, The Swing. How do you like to go up in the air so blue? Oh, I do think it the pleasantest thing ever a child could do. Up in the air and over the wall till you can see so wide. Yeah, I remember that poem. And nursery rhymes, things like that, but not in the school where I went. No, I didn't. We were not trained, not taught. You see, I went to a parochial school where we studied catechism, religious dogma. We memorized and recited lots of catechism. And we spent a lot of time praying. We were told to pray for all the sinners out there in the world, those sinners that we were told included us. So yeah, there wasn't much time for poetry. So wasn't I surprised when in 5th grade, the nun said we were going to write poems? Well, I guess she must have been a little bit more progressive than the rest. But again, there was no formal instruction. Here's how the lesson went. Go home tonight, write a poem, draw a picture to go along with it, and bring it back tomorrow. That's your assignment. So I went home that night, and after supper, I found my little spot at the kitchen table. That was my workspace to do homework. And I sat there, and I sat, and I sat. I had nothing. I know. I'll go to my reference materials. So that's what I did. Now, you're probably thinking I went to our family library. And we did have a set of World Book encyclopedias and some books. Or maybe you're thinking, I ran down to the public library. Nope. I sneaked into my older brother's room and I took his stash of Mad magazines. Now, they were hidden there because, well, you see, my parents didn't like stupid. And they thought Mad magazines were stupid. Now, as a kid, I loved stupid. I loved those Mad magazines. I loved Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello. My idols were the Three Stooges. So I got a couple of those Mad magazines. I brought them back to the table. And I put some books and my notepads around me so that if my mother came by, she wouldn't see them. And I began seriously perusing these periodicals. Perfect! I found this great poem written by Anonymous. Oh, this will work. So I got my pencil, and the first thing I decided to do was to draw the picture. This would be easy. Now, again, I went to parochial school. We studied catechism. There was little time for art, so I was not instructed in art. But I knew I could draw the picture that went along with this poem. I began by making a big V and then a little base on the bottom. You see, it was going to be a Pilsner glass to go along with this poem that was entitled Beer. So a Pilsner glass, well, that's the kind of glass that if you go to a nice restaurant and you order a beer, they will present the beer in a Pilsner glass. It's tall and shaped like a vase. So I made that V with the base, and then I got my yellow crayon and I filled the Pilsner glass with beer. And at the top, I got my white crayon, and that didn't come out too good against that white paper. So I got a black crayon and I outlined it so it looked like the foam was coming down the side of that glass. and now I got my fountain pen. Everything back then had to be done in ink. And then I carefully transcribed, word for word, from my Mad magazine, the poem, Beer. Beer. I think that I shall never hear a poem as lovely as a beer. The brew that Joe's Bar has on tap, with golden base and snowy cap. The golden stuff I drink all day, till my memory fades away. Poems are made by fools, I fear, but only Schlitz can make a beer. This was perfect. So I brought it to school and handed it in. Now, there were no computers back then, so my teacher, the nun, she had no way of typing in those words to see if it would come up somewhere. There was no app for plagiarism. And I very much doubt whether she had access to Mad magazine at the convent where she lived. So the next day I got my assignment back and right next to that Pilsner glass, written in red marker, was a giant uppercase B. I was pretty proud of myself. Thanks to Mad magazine, I received quite a satisfactory grade for writing my first for plagiarizing my first poem.